The dreams are lovely. The waking up is what I'm beginning to resent. Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of our planet's hottest entertainment with an edge that boldly goes where no one has gone before. I'm Jaime En Fuego, welcoming y'all to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment, and a Rapido review here of Episode 1, the premiere, the pilot of none other than the CBS All Access exclusive, at least here in North America, if I'm not mistaken, Star Trek Picard. You can just call me Fuego for short, and I'm stoked that you're here. As I discuss one of my favorite characters of all time. Yes, I know that as the years went on, maybe he is neck and neck as far as Patrick Stewart portrayals with none other than Dr. Xavier, but that was a character previously in comics and already an icon, and the perfect casting in that regard for those numerous X-Men films that we got over the years before McAvoy took over. I love both of the nuanced performances of them, but really the amazingness that is Patrick Stewart was first revealed to me as I was watching TNG as a kid. Yes, that's right, Star Trek The Next Generation began in the late 80s, ran for I think 7-8 seasons. Oh boy, it's been so long since I've revisited, but yes, 4 lights! And I have always loved his character, but just the ensemble that was Jonathan Frakes and Brent Spiner and Marina Sirtis. And I mean, it just was a terrific show. The films were a little bit more hit and miss, just like the original crew. Films were a little bit more hit and miss, whereas, everybody loved The Wrath of Khan. There was a lot more of kind of a skepticism and mixed reaction to, the search for Spock, and then the Voyage Home was great, and the whole fish out of water aspect. But then we get The Final Frontier, which some people consider one of the worst Star Trek films ever. And so, I mean, I don't know. It's a property that I am not as deep into as I am Star Wars. But unfortunately, there's some people who are just like, no, you're either a Trekkie or you're a Star Wars person. And it's funny because whereas I really loved Star Wars when I was little, and then I got into Star Trek over the years. I got into Star Trek over the years because of the fact that my dad was a Trekkie. At least he was a big fan of the original series with, Shatner and, I mean, obviously the amazing crew that included, Nimoy and, so many other just fantastic, actors over there. And so, yeah, I was watching those original reruns with my father. And I remember very distinctively his excitement when The Next Generation was coming out, and he enjoyed The Next Generation even more, and I remember very distinctively watching it with him, and just so many amazing episodes on the holodeck, just so much coolness, just full of Data is one of my personal favorites. God, I love that episode. Oh boy, all the toys, or the most toys, or something like that, where that guy was like the renegade collector, and he wanted Data as one of his, and all the stuff with Noonien Soon and lore and the introduction of the Borg. I mean, I adore The Next Generation, although I will admit, obviously, that it's not a show that I have rewatched as I've segued into more film and television punditry, because I just have not had the time. But watching this first episode of Picard, although it is a very flawed episode in a lot of what it does, I still felt so at home with this character because I love this character. I watched him on screen 4 different times, between Generations, First Contact, which everybody unanimously pretty much agrees is the best. The send-off I thought was rather weak, and not that I thought it was really, as bad as Insurrection or anything, but I mean, really Nemesis was, as much as it did a lot of cool world building, being the final Next Generation, crew film, I thought it was rather lacking in a lot of aspects. And the fact that, I thought we were going to get some lore, and then we just get B4, this like older Data model and stuff like that, but not necessarily evil. And I think it was Tom Hardy who played that Picard clone, and so it did a lot of weird things, and I really thought it was a lackluster finale. I mean, really, in some ways, I wish they could have just left it at the, Q bookending episode, with the sequel to All Good Things and so on. I thought that maybe that would have been better, but, Jean-Luc Picard, so on. But yeah, man, I just I adore this character, and just seeing him back in any capacity was obviously going to warm my heart. So this is non-spoilers, and I'm going to keep it very brief. As I said, I just needed to give in this initial bit of coverage some context about my adoration. I watched a decent chunk of DS9, you know, because it was like direct tie-in, and I mean characters and everything. I mean, really. But I never finished that series like I did TNG. And I tried a couple episodes of Voyager, wasn't too hot on it. I know Jerry Ryan is supposed to be showing up in this. She's in all the promo material. So that's going to be at least interesting. And you know there's going to be some sort of Borg factor. And I adore the Borg, even if, you know, the implementation of the Borg Queen didn't really make so much sense for what is supposed to be this hive collective, you know. But, you know, I guess, you know, she's like a... I don't know, like a termite farm. There's a queen of sorts, so it's not as, you know, far-fetched and befuddling or whatever. And then I never watched any of the one with Quantum Leap, dude. Yeah, I have a lot of friends who are just hardcore into, you know, Enterprise and even Discovery and stuff like that. But I will admit, I fell off the Star Trek train over the years, and whereas with Star Wars, I've read so much supplemental material as far as comic books, as far as, you know, lots of tie-in novels since Disney took over. But I never really went into that sort of extensiveness with Star Trek. And perhaps that is to my fault, most definitely, because as much as I love the fantasy adventure aspect of Star Wars, there is always something, in my estimation, much more thought-provoking and of an intellectual, just kind of inherency, if that's even a word. It's probably not. That shows the lack of mine, in all honesty. But yeah, it was more inherently intellectual, and with all of the different just kind of thought-provoking just paradigms that they put forth constantly in every aspect of Star Trek. And so, whereas Star Wars, as much as I adore it, was often dumb fun, Star Trek, more often than not, in whatever incarnation, always made me think. And so perhaps it's on me, obviously, and this is me owning it, that I didn't stick with it as much and try to find, you know, just merit within it and give it a chance, I suppose. And so I gave this first episode of Picard a chance, not even giving it a chance. I was stoked as fuck for it, and I, in some ways, was delighted, and in other ways, disappointed. You know, I was delighted for the sheer fact that Jean-Luc is on his vineyard. It's been 18 years now, I think, since all the stuff that went down with Nemesis and with Data's sacrifice, and just the immense sadness that entailed. But the fact that they start the episode of Blue Skies, man, I just... Oh, and they ended the last film with that, if I remember correctly, with B-Force singing it and stuff, and, you know, Picard smirking and stuff. I mean, the best thing that this does is immense fan service, and yet that is going to be a probable major detractor from the new audiences or the more casual audience that they're trying to appeal to. Because this is definitely, I'm not even like a super hardcore Star Trek fan, but this felt very like, and this isn't kiddie pool Trekkie. This is going deep, especially with the fact that they tie it in with stuff from the first JJ movie. Yeah, and you find this out right away, so I'm not going to really go too deep into it, but there is a big beat in the, I want to say that film came out in 2009, if I'm not mistaken, the first JJ Trek film. And the fact that Spock was in it, you know, and, I mean, we have our Prime universe, which is our regular Trek universe, and then I'm trying to remember if it's a Kevlin or whatever the heck the classification is. I know it's based on that ship, but essentially, without getting into too much, something that Spock does with that Romulan sun supernovaing and him, you know, just like creating the new timeline and all that different stuff. And I know I'm not giving the most in-depth description, you know, purists, I'm sorry, but yeah, they're like, the fact that the Star Trek J.J. Abrams film described an event happening in the Prime universe that created this new universe that had all of those new versions of the classic Trek characters, yeah, that factors in here. And, you know, Akiva Goldsman, I don't know, he pissed on the Dark Tower, so he's really a guy that I do not... I am not particularly fond of, but he had a great idea here to basically meld the most recent films that we saw, those three, along with, just the original series as well, and all of that Prime continuity and stuff like that. So it's a brilliant idea, and there's really not a lot that I can get into much more past those first few minutes of the episode, aside from the fact that the residual presence of Data is very heavy on Picard's heart. He's on the Chateau Picard, and he's retired in his vineyards. He left Starfleet. He had qualms with Starfleet and some major stuff that happened that was associated with that Romulan supernova and, Romulan sun supernova, the attempted evacuation of people, the should we help them, shouldn't we help them aspect of Starfleet. And Picard, in his first ever interview, since leaving the Federation, he gets kind of grilled by this journalist and trying to give his reasoning and everything. But as you've probably seen from some of the promotional material, shortly after that interview, he meets this young girl, and she's kind of in hiding, and Jean-Luc gives her some sanctuary. And it really just, the entire story kind of springboards from there. And from everything that he wants to go back and try to right some wrongs and all this other stuff. And this girl is kind of it's the spark that sets this flame deep in Picard to reconnect with certain people, to just get re-engaged with Starfleet, to investigate, and to form a crew of his own, none of which we get in this episode. This is very much, a lot of people called it boring, but I found it fascinating in what they were trying to do as far as the storytelling goes. Aside from Jean-Luc, I did not really like a lot of the performances, except seeing Brent Spiner again. He's in some of the promotional material, and the stuff with him it's heartwarming yet heart-wrenching at the same time, because we all know how Nemesis ended. And so that's something to look forward to, but also brace yourself for in a lot of ways. And as he finally has this, proverbial spark lit on his keister, Picard is like, I've just been busy waiting to die instead of living. And that's when you really know, okay, our just fearless leader is back, and he is ready to actually, search for some answers. And it ties in significantly with Data and just his affinity, his love, his friendship, almost like a fatherly type situation with the former commander. And I'm really curious where this is all going to go, because the stuff with the new characters felt just like people have complained about Discovery, far too modern, and it doesn't feel as much like Star Trek. Just like a lot of people said that the JJ films, and include the third one, which honestly, the third one, the third Star Trek, which was done by Lynn, if I'm not mistaken, that was and also co-written by none other than Simon Pegg. The third one, Beyond, was what felt the most like an original Star Trek, type of episode to me. So, credit to that, and the affinity, and the fandom, and the respect, and everything, and the admiration. This unfortunately falls into some of those tropes of just not feeling Star Trek enough to me. It doesn't have the gallantry and the sophistication in a lot of ways, especially with a lot of the dialogue. But, as a whole, the intrigue of the storytelling and the framework and the angle that they're pursuing here, I'm quite intrigued to see where it goes, and I'm trying to temper my enthusiasm at this particular point, because I went in very excited, and I was incredibly excited with our opening scene. It's really just tugged on my heartstrings, man. And then as I started to understand a little bit more of what they were doing, I was like, I'm not so sure about this. But then when I got it was almost like the slow reveal, where you start to see like a bit of a picture, and you're just like, I'm not so sure about this. And then when you start to see the full scope of it, therein you're on board. And I'm on board for this. I'm just really curious how all of these new players that, I don't know, mixed feelings from the promo stuff for the rest of the season that we get at the end of this, aside from seeing, Jonathan and Marina, and, even Jerry Ryan, I know she was so iconic, but I never really watched DS9, so I know they eventually, not DS9, come on, Voyager. I know they eventually got back out of those deep, far reaches of space that they had been exiled into and whatnot, so I don't know. I really want to see some classic, classic species, I guess, besides, Romulans. I mean, give me some Ferengi, man. Give me some, obviously, they changed over the course of, and there's the justification, which was amusing, about the differing look of older Klingons versus newer Klingons. But yes, we know we're going to see some Borg, and that gets me extremely excited because all of the episodes with the Borg in TNG were amazing, and I thought they were fantastic. So, I don't know. I'm hoping for some more info about what happened to B4 after the end of Nemesis. So, I have been Jaime En Fuego. Y'all can find moi on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube. Lots of stuff on Enfuegotainment from 2019 when I relaunched this channel after nearly 2 years of sitting, just doing nothing with it. I was very much all about The Horror Show, which is my main YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Horror Show channel, where we cover at least one spectacular thing every single day, sometimes two, whether it's a film review, whether it's a trailer reaction, whether it's a video game let's play, an unboxing, convention coverage. We try to be the most prolific names in horror. We don't say we're the best, we just try to be the most prolific and comprehensive and just, give you the most honest and fun coverage. We take horror very seriously, but we don't take ourselves very seriously. And so as not to get too disappointed, I'm going to try not to take this series. Now, I'm going to take it seriously and give it the sort of respect that it deserves, but once again, the burden of expectation is a big thing when it comes to IPs that you adore the hell out of, and I adore the hell out of Jean-Luc Picard and pretty much any characters associated with TNG. And then lastly, every Monday evening on the Will Escrivia YouTube channel, that's showrunner CP, and also Lindsay Mimsy from My 2 Cents of Nonsense do a program called Show Business, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, live, where we discuss weekend box office numbers and look ahead to the upcoming, along with a little bit of palaver about some of the biggest entertainment stories of the week. So, I've been Fuego. Y'all have been awesome. Gracias very much if you are new to this for just randomly clicking and seeing what's up with me. And until the Reel of Ka comes around once more, I shall say hasta luego, Cinemigos, and constant readers and viewers alike, because we all hopefully do a little bit of both. But I am hopeful that we get to share more of this discussion sooner rather than later. I'm going to be putting these episodes up every Thursday when they go live. And yes, you know the drill. That's right. Live long and prosper.